Okay, so as we're saying, we can select new order, which brings up a list of customers, and we can find our customer that we want. We have an option here also of doing quick setup. If we do quick setup, this is for people who do a lot of consumer orders where they set up one-time customers and stuff. We have the customer quick setup routine. This is a list of fields that are loaded or selected out of a text data record so that you can key in the minimum number of fields that you need to set up a new customer. Everything defaults, and you then have a new customer. So, quick way of setting up new people for one-time sales. We select the customer. We see the note from the customer master saying this pops up in order entry when a customer is selected. This is a sales note specifically for Bay Area Systems. Then this also warns us that there are special shipping instructions for Bay Area Systems. And these things are based upon the comments set up in the customer master. Looking at the order entry screen or view, we have a couple of buttons I'll get to later. Shows us the current company, the company name, and we can drill down and get the company detail panel here if we want it, if we're in the middle of an order. The sales order type defaults based on the customer setting, either loaner, quote, or sales order. And the subtype defaults system-wide, and you can have any number of subtypes that are set up in a GenCode table. The default location defaults based on the current operator's location, or if you have the zip code file loaded with the location information, it will default based on the ship to address that defaulted in here from the customer record. As we saw in the ship to file, one of the customer ship to addresses can be flagged as the default, and that one shows up here. The sales rep defaults from the customer record. This is an additional information panel that lets you put additional information that are related to the sales order in this field. This shows a default division and department. Unit number is used if you have things that you're entering sales orders for that are tied to specific customer facilities, or if you're entering a sales order for an update or subscription for a piece of software where you want to find a serial record in order to determine information for the sales order. Then you have a stage. A sales order can have stages, and this yellow bar allows you to slide it over to make things bigger, room bigger or smaller for the comments here. The first tab we get into is the line item tab, or the grid, where you can enter line items. Line items are entered by starting with an item number, and we'll get there in a moment. There is an older line item browse. This is deprecated. This will disappear at some point. So we're warning people and saying, don't use this anymore. Looking at the front screen, what else we have? Over on the left here, we've got some control information that when you save the sales order, it'll pop up the scanning interface to scan a purchase order or other document. You can automatically email the sales order on save. You can automatically print it on save. You can have the system automatically create an action on a new order save, and this action information to be created is stored in a text data record. and it lets you determine what type of action. Usually it's a follow-up action or whatever your company policy decides. You can show open order lines only, and then you can automatically add discount items. And that's an advanced feature where you can set up rules or business processes and say, I want to give specific discounts for co-op advertising, for marketing purposes, these type of things, and it'll automatically add a discount line based on the order total. Then moving along here, you can search for items using full text or keyword by keying them in here and hitting the appropriate button. Here you've got more extended detail for the line. Sorry, this is a comment. And then the extended detail is over here on the right. You'll see that as we add items. These are the holds on the order. You can add a hold or remove a hold. This is normally defaults to update totals on edit. That means as you add lines or edit lines, the order totals will be updated. If you're a site that has extremely long orders with hundreds of line items, you may not want to have that checked because it'll speed up the entry of the line items because you don't have to wait for the system to go through and total stuff after every line. We have an order subtotal, shipping charges, sales tax, total, gross profit margin, and then two options to either save the sales order or save an invoice immediately. Oh, someone just joined us. We have a shipping tab. The shipping tab tells us where the goods are going to be shipped to. And then it tells us based on the ship to information, the tax type, the tax code, and the ship note. And then down here are special shipping instructions. These were the ones that came up during when we found the customer. And this one just says test in order to show us that it exists. We can pick or add ship tos. This gives us the list of ship to addresses from the customer. And then we have an option here to show addresses that came in from EDI. If you have, let's say you're shipping, drop shipping for Amazon, you're going to be creating hundreds, if not thousands, of ship to addresses. And this allows you to filter them that when you pick a ship to address for a manually entered order, you only see the addresses that would be their warehouses, not their all the dropship addresses that you have shipped to. Also in here, you can add a new ship to by hitting the plus key. And we went over this screen before. You can click default. That brings the customer's address in, and you can edit it if you need to. You can pick a will call address, and these are basically your warehouses. Will call means that your customer is going to go to your warehouse and pick it up, and therefore the ship to address would be one of your warehouses. You can edit the current ship to record. This way you don't have to find it off the list. And then you have the ship to note. You can hit F3 to select a generic comment if you have certain ship to notes that you always want to use. You can store them, and then you can retrieve them instead of typing them. Our weather area, and then moving down to shipment detail. This is the ship via. This defaults off either the customer or the ship to address. If we pick a different ship to address, we may get a different ship via. We don't. That means there are none in the customer ship to addresses, so it defaults from the customer. We can change the ship via here to UPS ground. Now, one of the things that we do with the ship vias is we allow you to identify disallowed ship vias by item. And that you can do off of the catalog manager by setting up a text data record that says this item cannot be shipped using these shipping methods. For example, lithium batteries can't be shipped by any air methods. Then your via terms, and this indicates whether these via terms are whether or not to charge shipping. You can then identify if this is going to be a third-party billing. Third-party billing can either be collect, which means the UPS driver gets the shipping charges from the consumer. You can say third-party, which means you are billing a third party that is not the shipper or the receiver or the recipient, which means it gets charged to the recipient's UPS code. If you have third party, then you need to fill in the bill to account, and we allow you to go over to the stored bill to accounts or third party billing accounts from the customer record. Now, if you have them set up like this, you'll see this one is set up for UPS all, which means if it's a third-party UPS shipment, use this third-party billing account for all different services. If it's not set up that way, then you can have one for UPS red, UPS ground, because some of your customers will say, use this account if it's red, use this account if it's ground. Then you have a hard shipping charge, and this is based upon how do we charge shipping for each order. We saw in the customer what the default is, actual each time, fixed actual, fixed on each shipment. We can tell the system to calculate shipping or automatically calculate it, or we can rate shop. When we rate shop, we can pick whether we want to rate shop UPS or FedEx or both. And it tells us we can't have a box count of 0, so we can just put 10 and boxes 1. So now we've just gone out to the UPS rate service and done our rate shopping, where we can tell the customer, okay, if it's ground, it's 27. If it's next day, it's 140. We can identify which types of carriers we want. If you have LTL rates, you can have that in there. I think I have FedEx hooked up, so we can do this. Okay, nope, I don't have FedEx configured on my system. So, and these are the published rates. Your actual UP invoice may vary from those because you might get a discount. Then we have shipment attributes. Shipment attributes, we can hit the insert key and we can add them to say we want adult signature required. So this will add that to the UPS shipment so that when the goods get delivered, it's going to require an adult signature. Tells us the weight and the cubic volume of the shipment. And this field tells us shipping charges to date, how much we've charged in shipping on this order so far. Moving on to order information, we have the order contact. We can hit the prompt button, get the list of contacts from our customer record. If I don't select one, it blanks it. These are default dates required, scheduled, and a cancel date. Schedule time and schedule info is used if you're doing deliveries with your own trucks. Over the terms, your payment terms, the currency that this order is being placed in, the price level, and then discount to apply to the line target prices. Purchase order number, purchase order date, the System looks at the customer record to determine whether or not a purchase order is required. And there's an advanced configuration feature that lets you determine which characters of the purchase order are used to determine if it's unique. If you enter a purchase order and you already have that purchase order number from the customer, it will warn you that it's possibly a duplicate. When you confirm the PO and who confirmed it. Confirming the PO means that you've called back the customer to confirm the PO. The fulfillment PO is your customer's PO. So let's say a company places an order with Amazon and gives them a purchase order. Amazon places the purchase order with you, but wants to have the end customer's purchase order on the label that would go into the fulfillment PO number field, is carried through the invoice and then printed on the label. Reference number is freeform, priorities preform, project is freeform, or you can have a list of projects. Ticket bill just means that this order should not be invoiced. It actually moves into pending, and then all of these orders that have been shipped over a period of time get invoiced at one point. That's common in the auto parts industry, where you deliver stuff to the auto shops on an ongoing basis, and then once a week you send them an invoice. Here are defaults for the order lines. Do you want the lines to default to vendor shipment, to allow back orders, to make it a special order, or to allow partial shipments? We've got our code fields. As always, these descriptions or names of the fields can be modified. Some sales information, what opportunity this came from, what quote it came from, a source order if this was split off of another order, an original invoice in the case that this sales order is for a credit, and an RA number. Probability is a carryover from the opportunity. The different salesman information that is stored with this order: rep, sales manager rep, regional manager rep, order entry rep, territory, commission rates, and then some order totals. Comments, we've got lots of. Anything you key in here is an order comment. It prints on the quote, confirmation, and invoice. You can click this button to move it over to the pick list comment. This prints only on the pick list. Or to the purchasing comment, which prints on the purchase order if this order has generated a requisition and a purchase order. This is the order entry note that popped up during order entry if you didn't pay attention to it. And this is a sales comment. It doesn't print anywhere. It's just a comment that you want to store with this sales order for future reference. Then you've got additional comments, which we don't put on the screen. This is the company invoice comment. This tells you that this comment is going to print on the invoice. The company pick list comment, this comment is going to print on the pick list based on the company, and this is different from the comment that you could enter here. You have an AIC, additional information comment. You have a bill of lading comment. This comment goes on to the bill of lading. You can add or edit an order invoicing comment that appears during invoicing. You can add or edit a packing list comment. You can add or edit the credit comment. And then you can edit here the Edi Rejection Comment. The Edi Rejection Comment is the comment that is sent back to the customer if you're rejecting this order via EDI. As I mentioned here, the purchasing comment, this is the comment that gets carried through the requisition and put on the purchase order so that purchasing knows something or the vendor knows something. The Advanced tab has some information that's primarily used internally. When the last hold was released, when the order was completed, the printer status, the last invoice entered on, when it was last printed, the basis exchange rate. This defaults when you save the order, and it's the exchange rate today if it's a foreign currency order, and that's used with the currency surcharge or discount based on currency fluctuations. The hold history, whenever an order or a line gets placed on hold, it records it in the hold history so that even if it's cleared, you still have the history of what the holds were, and the number, the ship to ID, the status of the order, what work cell it's in, what the status of the work cell is, and a revision number. The attributes for an order are similar to the attributes from the customer, but these are attributes that are specific to the order. So here we have, here's an attribute, do not use bill to address for this order. We talked about in the customer record that you can have a separate bill to address and a company address, when normally the invoices are sent to the bill to address. Well, this is an attribute that can be set so that for this particular invoice, it gets sent to the company address, not to the bill to address. So the attributes will sometimes be really exotic features. We've got some test information here. So here are attributes that we can have additional things that we want to add to an order that we don't have fields for. Over here we have actions. Actions can be added to sales orders. And then we've got some EDI information, when the order acknowledgement was sent, the different order acknowledgement types, and what revision it is. So that's all related to our order header. Now we get to the lines. We can either enter an item number directly if we know it, and it defaults. And now here's an example where we had order entry attributes set by line. And if you remember, there's a field in the catalog that had order entry attributes set. And if we put this set in it, then this causes it to pop up and say, okay, what color do you want this to be? We'll say green. And then it asks us the next option, what faceplate color, what port number we want it on, what position we want it. There's no table set up for this. We want it in the third bay, and what type. So here we've captured additional information about this sales order line. In this particular case, this would be for a company that assembles computers, and the computer is going to have a CD-ROM in it, and this has information about how that should be configured. We have a quantity, the price defaults. This price is called the target price. The target price comes out of the special pricing system. It looks at all the prices available for this customer and this item based upon the quantity and comes up with the lowest price available to the customer. Now this tells us that this catalog record is not fully formed. It says there's a unit of measure code missing, which tells us that we can't save this item until the item gets edited. So we'll pick a different item here. Let's pick this one. We can manually enter the price, and now we've added to the order. Now this tells us that this order is placed on hold because this item had the auto hold flag checked. And this has popped up now, the related items saying, oh, if you sell one of these, try to peddle one of these to the customer too. So we tell it, we've added that item. Okay. So now we've added these two items to the order. We can go back here and enter a price for this one. And we can, here we have a broker item. This is a special order item that's not in the catalog that allows us to use a generic item and to then either add the description in the description field or to add it as a comment when we want to sell something that's not in our catalog. I'll clear it because we're not going to use this one. Or I'll pick a different one. Okay. Over on the left here, we've got some things that we can do. We can sort the items in alphabetical order. Some customers like to have the items on the order sorted alphabetically by item number. We can do a refresh, and that reprices everything. This is just a zoom button here, which has the same effect as zoom. This is for running exit routines. If you have custom routines that need to be run during order entry, you can link them into a list, and then you can run them off of here. This is fast item entry. If you get a list of items from a customer and you don't want to go through the grid process, you can just enter the items here, enter a quantity, and then say okay, and it adds the item. So in some cases where like our fishing lure manufacturer, they may get 150 items on an order, and it's just much quicker to use the fast entry. And if you notice here, you can also paste from the clipboard. So if they send you a list of items in a spreadsheet, you can copy the item number, quantity, and price column off the spreadsheet and then paste it into this fast item entry. This is a percentage. You can enter an across-the-board discount to apply to all of these lines. And then there are additional options that you can add onto here. You can add items that you sell very frequently. Some customers have the 80-20 rule where 80% of their items are only 80% of their sales or 20% of their items where they have 4 or 5 items that they sell very frequently. You can put buttons there to enter those items. Here in our search box, we can enter something in here, do a full text search, which I don't have set up on my system, but I believe I have it in keyword. And here we can say we want 1 of those, 2 of those, 3 of those, and we'll just add all those items to the order. So if you have items that are grouped together, in this case Gatorade, if you have the full text search, it does a Google-like full text search on your catalog and shows you all of the items that qualify. Here you can add comments. So this is the same thing as going up here to the toolbar button. So you just got all the different things that you can do here in order entry. Then when you're done, you save the order. It rechecks pallet pricing if you have that enabled. And here's another one of these control things. It says, I can't save this order because item 0111A is on it and the shipping is UPS ground. This is a check to make sure that you can't ship certain items different ways. So that means we've got to go over to here and we have to ship this a different method. Let's say we'll ship it FedEx Saver Freight. And that saved our sales order. So, any questions on basic sales order stuff?
I have a question. It's Mary Ann. That the pop-up that told you that that particular item had to go a different method of shipping. You set that up in the catalog management?
That's a real good question. I don't remember off the top of my head, but let me.
Okay, that's okay.
No, let me take. I'm interested now. Paul, do you remember where that's set up? Let's see. What was that error? That's
sorry. What was that? I wasn't looking at something else.
Do you remember where we set up which items can't be sent by which ship vias?
Ooh, not off the top of my head. Hang on a minute.
Okay, let me check over here in the source. Shipping charges, credit card terms, order holds. Yeah, Marianne, we're going to have to, that's a good question to research. That needs to be in the doc somewhere. And
Okay.
let me find out where that is. Blocked ship vias for item. In fact, what we're going to do is once that comes up, I'm actually going to add to that message and tell you where it is.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Let me see if I can regenerate that error. Let's load the order. Let's set this back to UPS ground. Let's save it. Okay, and the message is cannot save order. Let me see where that comes up. I'm just doing a search of the order entry source code here to find where that's one of the reasons it's really important when we get these types of requests that you send us a screenshot. It says audit errors. Okay. What that is, and let me show you that. Let's exit the sales order. Let's go over to text data. You brought up a real good feature that I had forgotten about. SQL audit. Okay. Every time a sales order is saved, it executes an SQL query. And in this particular case, it executes this SQL query. And what this SQL query does is perform any sort of exotic tests, and this is one of those, that you might want to perform that we don't have in code. So what this SQL query does is say, return this error message if this criteria is met, where it's passed at the sales order number in the SQL query and checks for that item number and checks for that UPS ground. So this, you could also add into this query the thing you asked about yesterday that says, certain products can't be sold to certain people. If we don't have the particular criteria in our PAX system, you can add it as an SQL query, an order entry save, to do any possible test that you can code programmatically. And that's where this one comes from. So if you take a screenshot of this, you can then wave it at Hank and say,
Yeah.
what I want.
Yeah, I'm doing that now. Thank you. That's good. That's very good. Thank you.
And it's not only for shipping. This can be pricing. This can be quantities. This can be, this item can only be ordered on Tuesdays. Anything you can possibly imagine programmatically can be added in this sales order save audit.
Perfect. That's great.
So, okay, let's see what other stuff we have in order entry here. We've got the More menu, and let's see what we have here. We've got Copy Order. So you can take an existing order and you can copy it, and you can pick what warehouse you want it to come from. You can change the dates, and it gives you an option to copy the comments, images, and attributes with it. So there you've copied an order. We can also, while we're in here, right-click. And one of the things to remember is that right-clicking in different places will give you different context menus. So here we're right-clicking in the description. We've got a whole bunch of different items. We just copied an order. Now here we can say import lines from another order. And it tells us comments and images are not copied and says, okay, let's get the lines off of this order. So there we've added another line here. Let's see what else is on the More menu. We can send an email to purchasing. This option here allows us to enter a new order for the last customer. It just remembers who the last customer was. We can scan customer provided documents. So there are certain documents, in fact, this is an OFM feature, there are certain documents that your customers provide you that you want to scan with an order, and you can pick them from this list. It'll pop up the scanning routine and automatically add the title to it. Off the context menu, we can zoom. We can take a look at this item and say, show me everywhere I have inventory for this item. You can say, show me the bill of materials for this item. This item doesn't have a bill of materials, so we don't have anything to show. We can say, change the dates. We can tag multiple lines and change schedule dates on it. We can look at the catalog detail. We can duplicate tagged lines. with different dates. If you have stuff that's going out in scheduled shipments, we can edit the cost. If you have functionality, you can edit the long description. You can check on kit availability. You can assign serial numbers to it. You can split the line into multiple lines. You can add warranty. So those are the context menu items. Oh, and we still have our ship via that it doesn't like for that particular item because of the audit. So we'll change it to 2-day freight. Nice. Okay, then up here we got a couple of fancy buttons. This is an order query. This allows you to bring up, I believe ORFM was using this. This lets you run a query and bring up sales orders to edit. For example, if you've imported a bunch of orders from EDI and they're on hold and the salespeople need to edit them or the appropriate person needs to edit them, they can have a personalized query here that says, hey, these are the sales orders that need your attention. This one here is next order to edit from a different query. This is SOE orders. This is next order. And this is the import order from clipboard. You can have multiple formats of orders in the clipboard that you can import. Emailed orders, orders from spreadsheets, just different formats. You can import an order from a clipboard instead of keying it. So that, I believe, covers order entry in a nutshell. Let's go into the line items. That's always interesting. Here we have the basic information for a line. Now this is a grid, so you can click on the description bar and then you can pick additional columns to appear on this grid. So here are all the other available columns that could appear on this grid. Let's say you wanted to, let's show the price source. So this basically tells us here, where did this price come from? So these are all the different columns you can add onto your display. If you want to pull a column off, you just grab it here and drag it off, and it's no longer there. So we can go into a line by zooming in to get more detail. And there's a lot more information about a line that we can't put on the columns because there's not enough room, which is a reason that you have this line detail field. So if there's information on here that you'd like to see as you go through the lines, you can put it down here, or you can zoom in. We can have a sales type, a sales code for the line. We have the description, all the different dates for it. These defaults from the header. If you want to change them by line, you can change them here. The quantity, the price, the gross profit margin, the contract number. Then any conversions. If the customer is ordering it by pack, carton, or case, it'll do a conversion for you. EDI information about this line, ship vias, the sales reps, tax information about this line, EDI information about it, original order, source order, rebate records, a purchase order item number, and a PO line number. These would be filled out automatically on an EDI order, telling you what was on the actual order, or they can be manually keyed. Your comments, the order line comment, the pick list line comment, these are similar to the header comments, except they're line specific. The inventory pick list comment, this is a comment from the inventory record or catalog that prints on the pick list. The invoice inventory comment, it's a comment from the item that prints on the invoice, and a comment based on the serial numbers. More comments, the company item comment, this is a comment that prints based on the company item combination, a line item comment passed to purchasing, and a comment that goes on to the address label. You have attributes about the lines, and here we can look at some of the different attributes that you can have. Our DVD attributes and actions related to the line. Over here on the right hand side, we have a tab dialog which shows for this line the different dates, any special pricing information that's available, the price levels, the customer's purchase history. If this customer has bought this item in the past, you'll see their history, current purchase orders for this item, and option fields. Again, these can all be named on a site basis. So if you have additional information about a line that you have to key, you can key it in here. The more information about this one, you can look at the target price calculation. One of the things that comes up frequently is when the system comes up with a target price, somebody's going to ask, how did it pick that price? So this lets you look at the calculation that the system did on how it got to that price. This is the information that it used. It's checking for a general rebate based on Bay Area systems. It's checking for a buying group rebate. It tells you what price levels it's found. And then down here, it tells you all of the different prices it found. Now, this item's not good for that, so let's go look at a different item. And we'll see here. Well, this one didn't find any prices for either. Let's see if I can find one where it found prices for. Okay, here it found some prices. Didn't find any rebates. It found the basic price level price was $1.98. After the rebate, it was still $1.98. There's no discounted price level. Then it checked the manufacturer price, the manufacturer buying group price. And down here you see all the different prices that it found in each category. The all nines means it didn't find a price. And then at the end, it tells you this is the target price that it picked. So you can go here and see what all the different prices were and what the calculation was. So you can answer the question of how did the system come up with that target price? Then we can look at change history for an item. If this order has been edited, you can see what the prior values were. And we can edit certain preferences here. These are the line item preferences at the order header basis. We can also edit preferences. These are all the things that can be controlled by the user that aren't necessarily system level controls. Whether or not to display the revenue column, automatically create a ship to for the bill to address, automatically sort it on save, automatically reprice on copy, allow line duplication, test for duplicate POs, delete the PDF after sending the email, how many characters in the purchase order to test, how credit cards are processed. In fact, let's go back and look at that in a minute. Number of days out to schedule an action for an order, number of days out to schedule an action for a quote, which action to create. If you have this checked when you save the order, it will pop up the action panel to let you create an action. The default tab determines which one of these tabs the order entry program opens with. Whether you want to pop up a serial lookup on save, that's used for people who are adding modifications to existing serial records. Whether you should send a secondary document, these are just the different options you have during order entry that can be set at the operator level versus the system level. Now, we forgot about credit cards here. We skipped this because this is shaded. So let's change the terms here to credit card. Okay, if it's a credit card order, this section opens up. Now it's asking us for a card number. We can either key it or we can get it from a list of stored card numbers for this customer. It brings in the expiration date. It does not bring in the security code. It brings in the name, and then when this order is saved, the system goes out real time and does a credit card validation. It does an authorization for the amount of the order plus whatever fudge factors you decide to add to the order. The fudge factors allow you to authorize more than the order for shipping, taxes, and any other charges. Then, if the authorization is successful, the order can save. When the order gets invoiced, the system will do a real-time capture to capture or charge the credit card the amount that you shipped. If you only partially shipped it, it only charges the credit card for what you shipped and reauthorizes for the remaining.